It does seem pretty clear, though, that we are going to, because this is what gets the base up in the morning, at least the MAGA base and Ann Coulter and those people, that all of these candidates are going, Republican candidates are going to run on immigration and be talking about immigration and trying to find, not talk about the policy, but trying to find these stories, these vivid stories of caravans or MS-13 or gangs, and they want to run on this from now until November. And I guess the question is, what do Democrats do? What happens with DACA? There's a Bloomberg story today. Jackie Rosen in Nevada said she's discussing it in her race every day. Obviously, there's a big population of Dreamers in Nevada. Ted Cruz, on the other hand, in Texas, is also discussing it in his race every day, thinking that it will energize his base to talk about how he stood against it. So what do you guys think?
Proposing that we use military funds, take away military funds to build the wall, that ad writes itself. Like, you imagine images of guns and body armor and tanks being literally ripped out of the hands of U.S. service members. The fact that they think that immigration is a more salient issue for their racist base is instructive. I would like to see Democrats use that to fight on. The other thing, their favorite anecdote is the AP reported that some people close to Trump suggested creating a GoFundMe for the wall, which is just fucking so perfectly stupid. I wish Dan were here today to talk more about it.
Go for it, guys.
But I think this is an issue where DACA is a great thing for Democrats to talk about because it is such a wildly popular issue. But I do think there is some risk more broadly for Democrats on immigration.
Yeah. I think we shouldn't be afraid to talk about it when we're talking about immigration. I don't know that I would make that the heart of what we're talking about right now. I'm much more interested, Jonathan Chait wrote this piece about corruption. I don't know if I'd make corruption the centerpiece of it versus healthcare, the economy, whatever. But I certainly don't think we should be afraid of saying that Donald Trump made a whole bunch of promises on immigration, couldn't keep a single one of them, refused to help these kids, didn't get his wall, didn't get anything done, didn't solve a compromise, didn't address the problem, and that's it. I don't know how much more complicated it needs to be than that.
Look, we always talk what should they talk? There's a whole bunch of things Democratic candidates are going to talk about. Yeah. I think that there's a reason that helping the Dreamers polls at 70, 80, 90%, and Democrats can feel confident going out there, even if you are running in a state that doesn't have a big Dreamer population, saying young people who are here, who are brought here through no fault of their own, who are working, who are in college, who are studying, they deserve to have a chance to become U.S. citizens, and they deserve not to be deported back to countries that they've never lived in before. I think that is a fairly popular message, and I don't think anyone should feel afraid of it.
Yeah,
you're
I
right.
agree with that.
Should you run on healthcare? Should you run on corruption? Yeah, of course. You should emphasize all those things. I mean, I think the corruption issue is interesting because I just think it leaves something off. I think we should talk about Trump's corruption and the administration's corruption all day long, but we need to make sure every time we talk about it, we connect it to those policies that are actually affecting people's lives. So if you're you connect it to healthcare, you connect it to tax cuts, you connect it to all these things that are happening.
He's doing this for him. Here's how it's hurting you.
Right, like Scott Pruitt is in a house for $50 a month or whatever.
Yeah, he's paying for his room with a Subway Club card. Meanwhile,
the lobbyist whose house that he's renting from got their project approved at the EPA, and that's screwing people over. That you have to finish drawing the line.
It is again and again and again. Mexico is our biggest trading partner. They're a close ally in security and economic and cultural ways. He's just rupturing the relationship day after day, tweet after tweet. I mean,
I thought Jared fixed it.
The foreign minister had to respond that this inaccurate news report should not serve to question the cooperation between the two countries. It's a big deal to keep kicking allies in the teeth for no reason when you're wrong and for naked political purposes.
I think that's a
big... End of Pod Save the World point.
No, I think it's a big... it's a big issue because someday down the line, we are going to need allies to work with us on something that has to do with the security of the American people, the safety of the American people. And at some point, they're going to say, fuck off because we have been treated so badly by your president.
And you're starting to see it in their political system because they're running against him now.
And that's not just a foreign policy nerd point. That's that's going to hit people at home sort of point.
And also, we're just so sort of enmeshed in the Trump drama. DACA is incredibly important. Immigration is a huge and growing problem that needs to be addressed. The fact that we have millions and millions of people who have to live in the shadows in this country because we haven't given them any kind of path to legalization is a huge problem, right? There are huge immigration problems we need to address that we've been trying to address for basically 30 years. And now this debate has been reduced to border wall versus DACA kids, and we can't even get that piece of it done.
Yeah, and that's a good point, is that that is way too small of a debate on immigration. every Democrat should also not be afraid of saying our immigration system is badly broken and it has been for a long time and we need to fix it somehow. And that includes DACA, that includes legal immigration, that includes border security, it includes all kinds of interior enforcement and what the fuck ICE is doing, which is awful. And there's a whole bunch of things.
And by the way, figuring out a way to talk about border security confidently in a way that doesn't abandon the core compassion and principles of Democrats, right? I think right now Democrats are skittish to even talk about border security at all because it's become a Trump issue. But border security is going to be part of any answer to this. And so finding a new way of talking has to be. And finding a new way to talk about this where we are extremely critical of ICE, we're extremely critical of policies that rip family apart, and by the way, recognize that there's an argument about American workers who feel as though immigration doesn't help them. Like finding ways at that to talk about immigration as a way of talking about how to help American workers, undocumented people, securing the border, getting all of that into a language that doesn't alienate Democrats who are afraid of people capitulating to Trump, I think is a really hard problem. And good luck to the 2020 Democrats figuring it out.
Did you see that they floated Don King to run Customs and Border Patrol?
Honestly,
you believe me for a second.
No, I was about to say, I don't know. I swear I didn't know.
Tommy's face seemed very serious. I almost... Yeah.
Why is that?
I mean, I really think... I was joking over the weekend about Lou Dobbs becoming the next Treasury Secretary, and that seems very plausible.
Stop.
Steve Mnuchin does not seem like he's a good fit.